Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't really want to say a pleasure, but I'm really pleased that I have the privilege to speak out against, and very strongly against, a bill that we're debating here today, Bill C-23, an act to amend the Canada Elections Act and other acts and to make consequential amendments to certain acts. And, you know, when you take a look at this piece of reform, this bill, it's something that this House has been waiting for a long time. Ever since I've been here as an MP in 2011, we've kept hearing over and over again that, you know, we're about to bring forward amendments to the Elections Act in order to improve accountability, transparency, etc., etc. So what a big disappointment when this bill was tabled. First of all, let's take a look at the process. A bill that is many pages in number and with not insignificant changes is tabled, and before even debate has started, there is already a move from my colleagues across the way to shut down debate. And, you know, we suggested that the bill, even before its first reading, after its first reading, should go to committee stage so all parties could work on something this significant in a non-partisan way and come up with something that works for all the Canadians. But this government shut it down. And then we started the debate in this House, and before two speakers had actually finished their speeches, the first two speakers, we get a motion. What surprise! We get a motion to shut down the debate. And you know what, Mr. Speaker, I'm so proud. I'm so proud to be a Canadian, and so proud that I live in a country that has a parliamentary democracy. But right now, I fear that that parliamentary democracy is at risk. And we cannot take those kind of comments lightly, and it takes a lot for me to say that. The reason I say that parliamentary democracy is at risk is because there is a role for parliamentarians. That when a bill is produced, parliamentarians representing ridings right across this huge and diverse country get to take part in a debate and put forward their perspective, the perspectives they hear from their constituents, as well as the perspective that they have garnered from their own experiences. And yet, once again, this government has a lot to hide. Because when you try to shut up debate, then you have something to hide. And once again, this government has moved time allocation. And this seems so ironic that the very bill that purports to address parliamentary democracy and the elections of parliamentarians is where the government chose to use this tactic of shutting down debate. And it is just so wrong, Mr. Speaker. Not only that, but let's take a look at the timing of this bill that we have been waiting for months and for years for. When do they decide to table? They decide to table during Olympic week. As if that wasn't enough, that people would be preoccupied and, you know, watching and supporting our athletes at Sochi. What they did was, that wasn't enough of a cover. So they needed the time allocation and the Olympics and the budget a few days later to absolutely suppress debate of very, very critical issues. And it is, as I'm hearing my colleagues saying, it is very, very disturbing. But more than disturbing, this is a deliberative act by a government who speaks about accountability and transparency, and now that they have this majority, they feel they don't have to be transparent, they don't have to be accountable, and you know, Mr. Speaker, and now we're seeing the arrogance of the majority trying to push through legislation without giving parliamentarians the chance they need to debate this issue. And I know that there are many colleagues in my caucus, sitting on this side of the House, who are very, very disturbed that they are not going to get the time to speak, that they are not going to get to put forward their perspective on what is absolutely flawed in this bill. And Mr. Speaker, I know that time is going fast and I only have 10 minutes and 5 minutes left. I actually want to get down to the contents of the bill. And first of all, let me say that there are some elements in the bill, and we're not saying that everything in the bill is bad. There are some minor elements that actually are an improvement. But they are buried in a bill that is fundamentally flawed. And, for example, we're delighted that there are going to be more advanced polling days, which could actually help to increase voter turnout. That's a good thing. The bill also helps to modernize the online voter registration system by indirectly allowing e-signatures. And this is also a good thing and something that I think is good. But on the other hand, the bill also has a number of flaws in it, and I want to get to a few of those. First of all, I don't know what this government has against the Chief Electoral Officer. Over the last few years, I've been impressed how in a non-partisan way he has been doing his job. He has been doing his job. But you know what? My colleagues across the way don't like that. So what they have done is they're removing powers from the Chief Electoral Officer instead of increasing the powers of that office. And they are making an unnecessary separation between the Electoral Centre and the Commissioner itself, Elections Canada and the Commissioner. And once again, they have absolutely no evidence that the Electoral Officer has been anything but non-partisan. Just because the electoral officers found some, I would say, misdoings by colleagues from across the way, and also found some technical difficulties with things that were being done by members in this House, well, that's his job. And he shouldn't be being punished personally and his reputation put at stake, but nor should that office then have its power limited because my colleagues across the way are too scared about what that could mean for the future and don't want that kind of an oversight over their actions. The other part of this bill that I find the most disturbing is that this makes voting more complex for our most vulnerable Canadians. This is a form of voter suppression that reminds us of what we have seen south of the border. And Mr. Speaker, I never thought I would see it here in Canada. We have the kind of policies being put forward, rules in this bill that will absolutely disenfranchise our most vulnerable. The low income, the transients, those on our youth, and all of this is very, very disturbing at the time that we should be engaging more people in a debate and in the electoral process. What we have is a government that is absolutely suppressing voters amongst a base that maybe has the most complaints against their policies and are very, very disturbed how they are being marginalized more and more. And it also makes it difficult. It also makes it difficult, as you know, it's also changing some of the political financing rules absolutely to favor my colleagues across the way. It doesn't actually increase your tax rebate. What it does is it increases the amount. And Mr. Speaker, I didn't really hear a clamoring anywhere in the country, please allow us to give more to the political process because we want to. This is another thing where it's a cash grab by the Conservative Party, and all of this will benefit them. And then in other parts of the bill, they're trying to clarify what is already there. It's already there in the Act that it's wrong to fraud. And yet now we're having that spelled out again, and I have some concerns about that. Is that to cover up so that they can then go and say, oh, it didn't really exist, but let me assure you, Mr. Speaker, it exists. This is a travesty, and I urge my colleagues to take their time and give us the time to be parliamentarians and to debate important bills.